Hello and welcome premium members. In this video here we're going to have a bit of a look at the problem of giving up too much value in our no limit MTTs, particularly as we're getting close to the money, and many players have a tendency to just try and limp into the cash rather than play for the win. And as I have said many times, is that sure, in sit and goes, just making into the cash can be quite profitable. I mean, you are rewarded for cashing in sit and goes. In MTTs, however, all of the real money is up top on the final table, and it's up in the top half of the final table. So just limping in for min cashes and MTTs is not a good way to play. You really need to take the risk of busting out in order to make enough chips so that you can win these tournaments and really become profitable. If you look up the stats of some of the best players, you'll see that they don't cash as often as many of the mid-tier players, but they are much, much more profitable overall because when they cash, they do so at final tables and high up on final tables. Anyway, so let's have a look here at what happens. Okay, folds. And player jams his, what is that, a 22 blind stack? It's not a huge mistake, but I would be more inclined, when you're over 20 blinds, I'd be far more inclined with such a strong pair of aces. One of them suited, we've got a deuce kicker. I'd be more inclined to make a smaller raise between 2 and 3 times the blind and try and encourage other players into the pot with us, because generally we're going to make more money doing it that way. And unfortunately here, all of our opponents folded and we kind of wasted our big aces there. Anyway, let's move along. Now we rejoin our player about 30 hands later, and we're getting really close to the cash now. Let's see what happens. Fold, call, and our player folds. Really, on this occasion with his stack size, I'm assuming this was a misclick, this fold. At least I would if this was the only time I'd seen a fold like this. But as we're about to see, there were quite a few more, although in tougher circumstances than this one. But really, that should at the very least be limped behind. Anyway, let's move along. Okay, here we are just 7 hands later, and our player is down to about 18 blinds. Let's see what happens here. Okay, there's a limp, and our player folds again. So let's just take that back. So having seen this player fold 2 fairly strong ace-deuce hands, the other one, of course, was significantly better than this. This hand has a lot of equity. We're in late position, we're in the cutoff. We should at the very least be calling here, because, if we don't play pots, we can't make chips. You don't win by folding. So yeah, rather than trying to limp in for that min cash, we should be playing. When we get good ace-deuce hands, we should be playing them. Anyway, let's move along. Okay, we rejoin our player about 16 hands later, and what's happened now is that our player's continual folding has led him to get into a desperate stack range. We've got under 11 blinds, and like I often say, you really, when the antes have kicked in no-limit tournaments, you really want to try and avoid getting down much below 15 blinds. And you avoid that by playing pots, not by folding so much. Anyway, let's see what happens in this one. Okay, there's a min raise, and our player folds. Yeah, look, with under 11 blinds here, this guy up here doesn't need a particularly strong hand to open. I've actually played against that player quite a few times myself. I've got an idea of his tendencies. Anyway, what I would suggest here is that you need to jam over the top. Some percentage of the time, this bigger stack will fold. Some percentage of the time, he will call. But when you've got an ace-deuce, you're not going to be a long way behind. Sure, your hand's not suited, but the rest of the hand, all 4 cards are working together here. We've got an ace-deuce for the best starting low. The jack connects to the ace for Broadway straights. The jack and the 9 connect to each other for straights. So we have got a case here where all four cards are working together. We've got less than 11 blinds. I would be jamming over the top fairly frequently here. I would seldom just flat call this raise. I would tend to just jam it. Anyway, let's move along. Okay, here we are just 8 hands later, and I think we're actually right on the bubble now. Or we're darn close to it. Anyway, let's see what happens here. Okay, big stack opens. Another stack, half his size, essentially flats. And our player folds with just under 7 blinds in a stack. Sure, look, sometimes I can understand wanting to, like if you're right on the bubble, just wanting to limp in. But the thing is here, is especially around the bubble, the bigger stacks are abusing the bubble. They're coming in really light. Ace, king, queen, and a 3, suited ace. It stands to be in pretty damn good shape against the opening range from this guy here. We're possibly behind the range of this guy here to be flatting a raise. But the thing is, if we jam here, quite frequently this bigger stack is just going to come back over the top and shut out this guy who's flat called. So, I mean, with such a small stack, I would frequently jam this here. I'd never flat call. I would jam and hope that this guy over here, the original raiser, comes back over the top and we get to play the pot heads up, and we probably have the best hand then. If it's a 3-way pot, we probably won't be going in with the best hand. But yeah, like 7 blinds, what else can you do? A min cash is what, 2 buy-ins or something? Winning the tournament is, somewhere in the range of 60 buy-ins. And you have to get lots of top 3 finishes to be a profitable player in the long run. Anyway, so our player folded. I think the very next hand he got reseated, I think that was where the bubble burst on that very hand. And now, of course, we'll see our player will just be forced to... he didn't do that one. Oh, this one. Yeah. So just 2 hands later, once he's in the money, he's forced to jam a weak hand and he won't have much chance. No, he doesn't win it. Yeah, so the takeaway point here is limping into the money and MTTs really doesn't help your ROI. It doesn't help your profitability. There are some rare exceptions, like in satellites, for example. That's an obvious one where everyone gets the same first prize. And occasionally, I would accept limping into the cash occasionally from a player. Like we let a lot of the Team 08 players play outside their bankroll if they win a seat into a larger tournament, and we let them play the seats with some restrictions. But if that was the case, and limping into the money would be a significant boost to your bankroll, then sure, go ahead and do it. But when limping into the money basically just buys you the right to play the same tournament again, then it's really not worth doing at all. Play for the win. Okay, well, I hope you've can all take something away from this one. Until next time, bye for now.